Let's get this party started.
Coverage tight, spotlight on tomorrow. Who you with? Trust, you'll be delighted that you followed. At Phirst Contention, the invention. We debate sports, of course we should mention. What's that? We cover games, we don't play suspensions. We 100, so if your star's missing, we let you know your squad surely gone fishing. We never fish though, no, not our motto. We sport, on deals, on court, on fields. The victors, the vengeance, the legends, latest invention. Phirst Contention.
I said, hola, senors and senoritas. Welcome to another episode of Phirst Contention. I'm your boy, guaranteed to stay here as much money as they will pay me. Marvin S. Banks here with T.Y. Sosina.
Salutations, folks. I'll be here for a while because I got that guaranteed De Niro. Over to Steve over in Shed's Block. What's going on, sir?
Yes, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We're back like Cairo Pack. You know what I'm saying? We all free agents, but we got that money here in Phirst Contention just for you so we can be here live and ready to go in Shed's Block. Let's get it going, fellas.
Thanks, Steve. All right, back at the desk here. Crazy weekend in the NFL free agent frenzy. While a lot of players couldn't do things officially till today, a lot of people were talking about, their futures, over the weekend. So, Marv, let's start with your favorite or what's the most pressing issues in terms of free agents that you want to touch on?
Well, there's a lot of free agents that changed teams, a lot of people that were traded, a lot of big names that were traded, but you have to touch on Philadelphia. What in the world is Chip Kelly doing? I mean, you trade away two explosive weapons on the outside with Macklin and Deshaun Jackson. Then you trade away probably the top three running back in the league and Shady McCoy, who just led the league in rushing a couple of years ago, who still put up over 1,300 yards, and you give him away? For who? For what? And here's the icing on the cake today. You trade away your starting quarterback for Sam Bradford. The same Sam Bradford who has not started a whole NFL season since they were the LA Rams.
Former Heisman winner.
Former Heisman winner. But still, it's a lot of indecisions. It's Philadelphia's on suicide watch right now, man. They honestly keep sharp objects away from people that's in Philly right now. Please do, Ty.
Pickup I want to touch on came through today. Jimmy Graham. Going up to Seattle.
Wow.
Seattle will send center Max Unger and a first-round pick to New Orleans. So I'm not sure who really gets the bulk in terms of the best pickup of that trade. But, hey, Russell Wilson, we've talked about these receivers. Jermaine Kearse, Doug Baldwin. Didn't really get it done in the Super Bowl and for a majority of the playoffs. So now you saw the way Luke Wilson became Wilson's go-to player throughout the end of the season and especially in the playoffs. So Jimmy Graham should put up big, excellent numbers for Wilson. Not to mention that every single time Jimmy Graham went up to Seattle, didn't have the best of days against the Legion of Boom and especially Cam Chancellor. But this is great for the Seahawks. We talk about them taking a step back. So got a nice receiving weapon. Not to mention Marshawn Lynch back in the fold. Great for them. As for New Orleans, Drew Brees struggled a bit this year. A lot of that had to do with, the aforementioned Graham's injury. But let's see how they can kind of put the pieces together. At least they were able to get a decent center to replace the one they lost and a first-round pick.
I mean, there's a lot that's been going on. Now we're just getting reports that Darrelle Revis has decided to take Revis Island
Darrelle Revis
back up to New York, where it all began with the New York Jets. Now he teams up with Buster Skrine, the newly acquired Buster Skrine from the Cleveland Browns.
He's happy.
I know he's very happy. Now, man, that division, the AFC East, Brady's not looking too sweet right now with Brandon Browner now a free agent too as well. It's not looking so easy like it was before, Ty.
Brady cannot be happy. Let's talk about the best, Well, Reeves is up there, but one of the top two, we'll say, defensive acquisitions from free agency. Ndamukong Suh
Oh my goodness,
taking his talents to South Beach,
that's a big catch.
saving some money on that state tax. Now he will solidify a Dolphins D-line, which was great against the pass. You know, Cameron Wake out there can get to the quarterback. Not too good against the run. We're talking about Shady McCoy going to the Bills. You have to deal with him. So they will make that D-line solid and stout more so against the run. And if you can stop the run, you can do some things, you know, in the season and in the playoffs.
You know, but I guess one of the bigger news is that just recently happened is the downgrade or the disappearing act of the 49ers team. What has happened to their whole roster? What is going on? Patrick Willis is now retiring.
Great.
Patrick Willis, Justin Smith is retiring. Frank Gore is going out to Indianapolis. He might join his other U teammate, Andre Johnson, in Indianapolis. The coach is leaving. Now they got Tom Sula running the organization, Ty. I think the 49ers might be the weakest team in that division now, and they were just in a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. It's remarkable how things change so fast.
Agreed. We talk about these Super Bowl and these championship windows that teams have, and I don't know if I've seen one shrink so far. I think a lot of us were ready to close the door on the Seahawks before they made the moves they made.
Exactly.
But this speaks to the pride. Harbaugh, Coach Jim Harbaugh, he really had that locker room together. There were reports that some players weren't as fond of him, that there were some murmurings going on in the locker room. But this speaks for itself. When Harbaugh goes and a great middle linebacker in Patrick Willis decides to retire, and you already talk about Justin Smith and this whole overhaul, not to mention these reports, I guess it was proven false, that Colin Kaepernick was on the trade block to be traded out of there.
Your franchise quarterback, Ty.
They just signed this man to a deal,
quarterback.
one of the largest deals in the league. And so when you have things solidified, when you have, you know, you're doing good things, people give you some money, you're doing some good investments, and then all of a sudden you shake it up a little bit, that's what can happen because especially in the NFC West, can we really call them a contender moving forward?
I don't know. I don't think so. Like I said before, the NFC has been a dominant division. Now, when you look at the acquisition of Jimmy Graham going up to Seattle, you look at what Green Bay has done, able to keep their free agents in-house. You think of what the Cowboys have done. You think about another person coming over from the AFC to the NFC, Haloti Ngata replacing Ndamukong Suh in the middle of that defense, probably switching over to a 3-4 defense, which fits Ngata as he played a 3-4 with the Ravens in his previous regime. You look at those teams, you look at the Saints probably making another comeback. The NFC in whole is just such a tough division. And now you look at the 49ers, you have to be looking up at what is going on in our team. It feels like everything is crumbling around us. It seems that it's not what it used to be, Ty. It's definitely not what it used to be. I don't know who their starting receiving core is going to be outside of Anquan Bolden. I heard Vernon Davis might be chopped.
Vernon Davis, another 49er who, granted, he pretty much called it quits before the season started. We talked about the free agents last week. A lot of people kind of listening to us. It remains to be seen what DeMarco Murray will do.
Woo.
But Julius Thomas has made his pick. We said stay with Manning, and he's decided to go
Blake Bortles.
To Blake Bortles. But the franchise is a lot different from the Raiders and the Browns.
They have some receiving talent now.
They have some receiving talent. They've got
Allen
a quarterback
Robinson,
who looks like he's the part.
You know, if they able to get someone like a DeMarco Murray for that offense, you know, you're cooking with something now. You're cooking with something now,
They've got a few
Jacksonville.
ingredients here. They're cooking for sure. Cooking with some good ingredients there.
Speaking of cooking with something that's real good, someone that's been on fire as of late, that man, whatever Ty's doing.
That's a dunk. And I'm leaving my wrist and arm in the hoop.
I get it.
I'm hanging, swanging.
I got it. Russell Westbrook, a.k.a. the Duncan Ninja Turtle, has been on a raging tear as of late. Now, when you think about Oklahoma City with Westbrook on a tear, what does it mean for their franchise as a whole, and what does it mean for KD, who's going to be a free agent, not this year, but next year?
Now, the Oklahoma City Thunder, They've been to the promised land.
They have been.
Didn't work out well for them.
Not the first time.
What we talk about when we discuss the Thunder, we discuss whether or not Durant and Westbrook can coexist on the court together. It seems like this is it's a one-person show. One man's got to be Batman, one person's got to be Robin, and we're not sure who's going to take it. Remember in the finals when Russell Westbrook did his thing and we criticized him because it didn't work out well for him. Then the following game he turns in an excellent performance, and they say, you know what, he's got the heart. Someone who we have questioned having the heart is Kevin Durant.
Woo.
A little bit. He's a little passive. And so I think that's part of this persona that Durant's trying to portray. Bad boy Kevin Durant. You media reporters don't know nothing. I'm a bad guy now. I'm like P. Diddy, bad boy for life. I don't know if they can coexist on the court at the same time.
Ty, I don't know, Ty. You're borderline a little disrespectful. You are talking about
passive. He's a little passive.
You are talking about the reigning MVP now, Ty. You are talking about the reigning MVP, and
The
Sam
real MVP.
Presti has put together a team over numerous years. They have put together a good franchise as they move forward. I think you have to keep both of these weapons of mass destruction with each other because they both have the ability. One might go off for 50 and the other one might go off for 40 the next game. It's just hard with this cap era, but the cap is expected to go up in a couple of years, so they might be able to keep them in max contract deals as they move forward. Don't get it twisted. Westbrook is out here balling.
Oh, yeah.
He's putting up Oscar Robertson-esque numbers.
Oh, yeah.
He's putting up numbers that we haven't seen for numerous years. 5 out of the last 6 games, I believe, had a triple-double. He was on pace to almost break Jordan's record of 7 straight triple-doubles, too, as well. Almost. But still, he's putting up 30, 11, and 11. I mean, Ty, yeah, Westbrook is the truth. He's playing like the truth right now, but when KD comes back, when he's back on that court, they are a championship contending team. Without Durant, I don't know if they can get out the West.
Now, it goes without saying, the talent's there. The talent's there at Westbrook. And we mentioned, Sam, Presti and how he's put together this team, was not afraid to trade James Harden in 2012. Presti is a guy he'd rather get something rather than have one of his star players leave without, having something reciprocated there. So, dare we see Presti trade Durant, a player of Durant's caliber, so he's for sure to get something if he can't get a verbal commitment from Durant. We'll see.
But the thing about it, what do you get? There isn't enough talent on an NBA roster to get something. You can give up 3 first-round picks for the near future and mortgage your team just to get KD. Mm-hmm. You can be like the Lakers. You can be like the Knicks. You can be like the Celtics, who have a lot of draft picks, who have a lot of players that can trade for them.
You could be like Philadelphia.
Yeah, or Philly, or a team like that. But how much is too much? I've never been a proponent of when you trade the best player in a trade and get something back in assets, you're hoping. You're hoping. You're hoping on potential. Potential can get you fired.
Hey, I hear you, but history does suggest you can't just let him walk for nothing.
True.
Not for nothing. I mean, let's talk about more so Durant and Westbrook. I mean, if you had to pick one player, that you have to mortgage your franchise on, who you taking?
I am still going with KD.
I agree.
I am still going with KD, but I know one person who wants to chime into this. Our man Shed over there in Shed's block. Shed, Westbrook, KD, who would you choose? What's going on in Oklahoma City?
Now, of course, I am going to have to lean towards my man Russell Westbrook because that's my guy. That's my second favorite player in NBA right now. The dude, I've always been a proponent of his play just because he got the dog in him. That's what you need on your team. Somebody who got the dog in him, who just don't care, who's reckless, goes out there and gets the job done, and just has a fearless mentality. As you see now, he's been really kind of taking his game to the next level ever since the All-Star break. He's been scoring almost 30 points per game, averaging 10 rebounds, 11 assists, a triple-double for the last couple weeks of the season. He's been doing that without Kevin Durant. Now, if you kind of look at the situation still, though, Kevin Durant is a huge and vital part of this organization. I feel like these two they have to play together. I mean, they're Thunder buddies. Like you say, Thunder buddies for life. These guys are going to have to be with one another in order for them to win a championship. And I feel like if they do win a championship within one of these next 2 years, nobody's leaving anywhere. Just because they have built the foundation and they can kind of think about, okay, let's think about our legacy. Let's think about what we can do together, and not be like Kobe and Shaq and depart. Let's be together. Don't be like LeBron and D Wade. I know D Wade is a little older, but he left. He's down in Cleveland. Let's stay together and see how many championships we can win together. And I feel like winning is going to trump it all. I mean, if you kind of look at it in a sense like this, Russell Westbrook got hurt the previous year, and Kevin Durant was leading everything last year. And he got him to an MVP, basically because he was do-it-all guy. He was a point forward, assisting to his teammates, scoring all the points as he usually does, but that acclimated his team to actually do well, so it gets them to the playoffs. But as you saw, without a very healthy Russell Westbrook, they fail, and they fail pretty quickly. So I feel like these guys have to be together. The good thing about it is that Russell Westbrook has really learned how to trust his teammates, and that's been the main factor that's been kind of holding these two back. Especially when you get to the playoffs, it's been more so one-on-one ball. Russell, you taking one play, Kevin, you taking the other play. There's not been much continuity with the rest of the teammates. But Russell's starting to gain that trust in Serge Ibaka, in Enes Kanter, in Mitch McGary, all these other role players that they have. And that's going to benefit them in the long run because you have Russell who's going to be a dog when he needs to be a dog, but he can now be a dog and get the other person open. It don't necessarily have to be Kevin Durant the whole time. It can be Serge Ibaka. And if you have that continuity with the team, as you see with the Warriors and the Hawks, the way they share the ball, if they can kind of build something like that, obviously you have your two, Batman and Robin, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. It doesn't matter which one are the two, but either way, these guys are going to lead you to the promised land, but you need those role players. You need those role players to do something, and you have to have trust in it. And I feel like if Kevin Durant comes back, he's already kind of built that type of trust. You saw what he did last year as far as being an MVP for that team. He built that trust. He's willing to share the ball and let Russell kind of take over. But the thing all about it has been about Russell and his mentality. What is he going to do? Is he going to shoot him out the game, or is he going to shoot him in the game? Is he going to pass the ball to Kevin when they need to pass him, or is he going to take the shot himself? Well, as you see now, this last game got 17 assists, even though he scored 40 points. But he's trusting his teammates, and that's a good thing for the long run for Oklahoma City. And I feel like if they win, hopefully they can get it done this year, just building off that momentum, then that will kind of trump all of the situations that are going on around them. Russell Westbrook won't go anywhere. Kevin Durant won't go anywhere in 2016, and you won't have nothing to kind of complain about just except how you're going to pay these guys. But I feel like that'll all pan out. As you say, the salary cap is increasing. So that's gonna play out and lend themselves to Oklahoma in the long run, as long as they win. You got to win, produce. Let's go, fellas.
Appreciate it, big homie.
By this point, we've all seen the video. Oklahoma University, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, the chapter down there, chanting a
Racial slurs.
Yeah, it was just as a racial slur. Not so fond of a chant, on it looks like a school bus there. Now, the president, he's made some moves here. David Bourne has suspended 2 players from the video who can be identified.
There'll never be there'll never be you live from a dream, but it'll never stop me. There'll never be.
Your thoughts on the situation, especially as it kind of relates to sports here?
Well, Eric Stryker was the player that came out and had that big video saying that he was real upset about them coming out, shaking their hands and being friends to their face, but coming out with this video too. There's a lot of components in here that people are saying, well, what about the freedom of speech? Freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. Well, you have your freedom of speech, but it also has consequences when
Absolutely.
you do abuse your freedom of speech. And everyone, of different races and ethnicities knows that there are certain lines that you cannot cross. There's certain things that you just cannot say. And for a fraternity like that to go over and beyond the scope of things, I have no problem with Oklahoma's president bringing a hammer down. I have absolutely zero issues with that whatsoever, because you have to make an example of stuff like that. That's something that you're not going to be tolerated with. It reminds me of, I don't know if you watched the last Scandal episode, but it reminds me of the racial issues and the racial tensions that Scandal had brought to the forefront, brought to the light and everything. The same racial issues that is happening in Ferguson, New York, now being portrayed on Scandals. Now it's going back to the universities too as well. So I'm glad that they actually brought down the hammer, like I said before, and not just try to sweep it underneath the rug, not try to sweep it underneath the carpet too as well.
You know, yeah, they definitely heard the outcry. It bears mentioning as well, Sigma Alpha Epsilon has issued a cease and desist on the chapter, and it looks like everyone's been kind of expunged from the fraternity there. Now, this has shades of David Stern to it. We talk about freedom of speech, but you said they have consequences. Yes, it was kind of a private moment, and they should have that, but when you represent, you know, a fraternity, an organization, a proud organization, I'm sure, paperwork is in place that you also represent a university. And as a public university, you know, Boren did have kind of free range to kind of do what he thought was necessary in terms of disciplining the students.
But I think about, you know, with us being alphas, being a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, how would you react if the shoe was on the other foot and I came out and said something like that? How would that reflect upon you? How would that reflect upon the people that came before me? How would that reflect upon the national president? How would that reflect upon Shed and Shed's block
Absolutely.
and everything else too as
Absolutely.
well? So there, like I said, there are consequences for your actions. There are consequences for you having that freedom of speech. Yes, you have the right to say whatever you want to, but you also have the right to get axed when something like that happens.
Let's bring it more into a sports discussion. Let's elaborate on Eric Stryker deciding, you know, in terms of OU.
Well, it's interesting because Bob Stoops, the head coach there for the football team, said that he wanted to sit down and talk to the young man, and that everyone, not just football, basketball, but the whole athletic department came together as a whole to stand up for stuff like this. And I think that it shows light that athletes are more socially conscious about what's going on, more social activism. You see LeBron James in the Heat with the hoodies. You see
Derrick Rose, I Can't Breathe shirt.
I Can't Breathe shirt. Then you see Hawkins from the Browns.
Absolutely.
In his press conference talking about different issues like that. So you see athletes more social aware about what's going on in the community and actually standing up. So kudos to them actually taking a stand on what's happening and not sitting back to the forefront like some of our athletes that we used to look up to, the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods, and, you know, having a silence and just staying neutral, actually standing up for what you believe in.
I agree. It's obvious that, you know, racism is alive and well in this nation, and there are, you know, undertones, but especially in the South. I know me personally, I don't know if you ever saw the 30 for 30 on Ole Miss. There's some history there. James Meredith, you know, being turned away at the door. But Ole Miss is the same school, you know, I believe it was 2 years back that had the #1 recruiting class. So, you know, as an African American, I know me personally that I couldn't play for a school that has that kind of history, but times overlaps. It comes to a point where a number of schools have some sort of, you know, racial history that's tied to it.
Well, then that's when you talk about the big business of schools. Then when you talk about the NCAA being the huge market that they are, where they're able to attract people into their universities, where Ole Miss and Mississippi State and University of Texas and Oklahoma is able to attract athletes and able to bring them in. A book that I've read by William C. Roden was called $40 Million Slaves, that really went into depth and detail about how big business has influenced the African American community, has influenced African American culture. When you think about, you know, the all-white teams in Kentucky before they lose into Western Kentucky. When you think about the all-white teams of Alabama with Bear Bryant before losing to an integrated team, an interracial team in USC. When you think about Joe Louis and you think about the boxing, the sports, and different things of that nature, it's interesting to see where times were to where they are now and how that integration process has happened. And I mean, there's still a lot of issues still dealing here today with big business and athletes, which is always the underlying tone that you talked about, Todd.
Again, we've talked about these players today who are more politically aware, you know, not as much compared to the players of the past, you know, Muhammad and Jim Brown. In our community, you know, we're facing a lot of things. It would be great, you know, if they could stand up and kind of corner the market, you know, show them that if this is how you're going to treat someone who looks like me, I do not need to come play for you, because we all know where the money comes. Granted, the boosters do sign a few checks, but NCAA football, that's where a lot of the money comes. But hey, if one person's not going to take that scholarship, there's probably 10 other athletes lined up who need a way out of their situation.
Definitely so.
Steve, I mean, you played D1. Your thoughts on the video a little bit, and I mean, what should players do? What kind of protests or actions should be taking place here?
So yeah, we're talking about another racial issue that we have here in America. Obviously, you know, we live in a society that stuff like this tends to happen, and it's sad for the simple fact that it continues to happen. You know, you have people that have these mentalities. Obviously, we all have our freedom of speech. We all have our freedom of thought. But when you include the way that this viral society is, digital world, you have all this media, plenty of ways for that type of sentence, a word, or whatever you're speaking can get spread out so fast. It kind of comes with a different responsibility, as you guys were alluding to. You know, you gotta be aware of what you're saying, because it not only impacts that moment, but it can impact future moments. You know, if you look at the situation now, I mean, obviously it was a horrible thing for them to kind of come out and say things like that about, you know, African Americans in their actual fraternity. You know, and I saw an article today about Black Greeks, just kind of thinking, well, they're not as mad at that situation just because, for the simple fact that we have black fraternities, is because we went away from what those type of organizations have kind of had as their stronghold. We're an organization that's kind of built ourselves. We kind of made ourselves an equal. You know, we have our own establishment, but we also, we reach back into the community. We don't have any type of bigots or, you know, racial type of discriminatories from all other races to join our fraternity. Anybody's welcome. You know, we form a brotherhood. It's like a family. And that's one thing that you can kind of look at is say, let's look at the situation. Obviously, things like this happen. Media kind of makes it a little bit worse. But for you, you just got to figure out a way to stand above it. And especially as an athlete, I feel like for the guy who, you know, decommitted from Oklahoma, as an athlete, I probably wouldn't have done that. Simply for the fact of, I'm not looking at that situation and saying, well, just because they don't want me in the fraternity, that means that organization or that university doesn't want me to come down there either. They're just kind of using me. No, I'm looking at that situation as like, okay, well, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna show them the type of person I am. I'm gonna go out here and get my degree. I'm gonna go out here and make these best football plays that I can. And I'm gonna make a big name for myself so that I can be looked at as somebody that's actually doing something of value, and I can give back to my community. And I can just ignore all the bigot, all the racial slurs, all the discriminarities around me, and just try to stand above it. And for me, that's why I feel like as an athlete, don't let the situation that is occurring detract you from your goal. If you want to go to Oklahoma and that's your big school that you always kind of looked at, don't let all this other stuff around you kind of reflect or, you know, keep you away from where you want to be. Take it as a situation. Obviously, there's going to be some things where you're going to have your mind focused, keep your blinders on so you can't have all this other stuff distracting you. But at the same time, if you have your goal set in place, you just got to go after it and keep that in mind as you're, you know, at that university, as you're out there playing, that you're making a name for yourself, not only for just your name, but for your family, for the future generations to come, and just trying to stand above that situation. Obviously, there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in this world today, you know, and it's going to continue to happen, unfortunately, just because that's the way society seems to be. The unfortunate situation is that, you know, a lot of this stuff probably happens without the media attention, and you don't even know if Alabama's the same way, or Florida's the same way. So the bad situation is that, with the media, it explodes. You look at the Ray Rice situation. You look at the Adrian Peterson situation. Just because of the video, just because of the pictures, it caused immediate reaction. It caused a suspension from Adrian Peterson and Ray Rice from the league. As you saw with SAE, the same thing happened from the university. They had to come down and make a decision. But I'm saying is that this type of stuff is happening all around us. You may not see it all the time just because there isn't video cameras there, but be aware. This is our situation that we're in. We got to figure out a way to stand above it. Kind of think about it as yourself. What are you doing internally to kind of keep yourself above the light? And that's the way I'm going to leave it. As an athlete, that's the way I'm thinking. So I'm going to take it back to you guys.
Well, let's turn to our best part of the show. We like to call We Sports. And our first question comes from Stephen Herman Davis the first. And he asks, why do you think Patrick Willis retired so early?
Again, the great, on pace for a Hall of Fame career.
He will be a Hall of Famer.
Unfortunate to see him end it so soon. We kind of touched on it. This isn't the regime that drafted him in the John Harbaugh regime, but I believe he had great ties to Harbaugh. Harbaugh had an excellent defense. Harbaugh sent somewhere. Vic Fangio was sent somewhere. We know how physical the game could be, and he's dealt with injuries, not only missing the bulk of this past season, but not dinged up the season before. So I believe he thought, hey, let's call it quits. I got a family. Let's go ahead and do that thing.
Wow. You know what? I think he actually turned around. He woke up. He looked around, and he did what a lot of 49er fans are doing right now. Abandon ship. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't really abandon ship, but he also did say that injuries, if he can't play at a high level, then he doesn't feel that he wants to continue to play a career that's not at a high level. Now, he has numerous charities. He wants to move back out to the East Coast and spend more time with his family. So there's other things that he's doing. But I still sense that he looked at this team was abandon ship. Give Green Bay a call. We're looking for a middle linebacker. Don't worry about it. You could come play for a champion. Ty?
I don't know why he would go to Green Bay when every single time they play Green Bay, they knock him out of the playoffs. So I think he was good where he's at. That's probably his best chance.
Wow, shade.
Yeah, take it how you want. Take it how you want. It's facts. It's facts. This question comes from Lil Bro, Ricky Hall. He says Chris Bosh will resume play next year.
Yes.
How will he be the same knowing that he has had the lung problems?
I think he'll be fine. When you look at that Miami Heat team as they move forward, they have a pretty good starting five. I will put a top 7 probably starting 5 in the league as they move forward. And when you add Chris Bosh to that, I think they have a chance to be a top 4 team in the East. Don't know where they would line up at, but with modern medicine now, health and making sure that he's watching over that, I think he'll be absolutely fine. I think he'll come back, put up 20 and 10, probably average something like that next year.
Talking about a sport that has you run up and down the court, a lot of cardio necessary. The use of your lungs is important, when playing sports, especially in basketball. I think in the back of his mind, it's going to be lingering. We talk about Derrick Rose and his recovery.
But Derrick Rose is always recovering.
He is, but when you're running up and down, we're coming off the anniversary
Derrick
of the player
Rose is not running.
Stop.
Okay.
We're coming off the 25th anniversary of my apologies, a player who collapsed and died, we know, with the heart issues. So we're talking about issues in the body, and we're actively using those body parts as we're, engaging in activity. I don't know if you can just return and not give it any chance, especially when you find yourself out of breath or tired. He's going to need to get his cardio back up. So when you hit that wall, what are you going to be thinking about? I think he'll think about it. He'll be fine, but he'll be thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Well, that wraps up another episode of Phirst Contention for your boy Shed over there in Shed's Block. But before that,
don't forget, like the video, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. While you're at it, go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you liked it, go ahead and share that thing.
Please share. we would love for you to share that with all your friends, families.
Share the
significant
video or
others.
else.
We will send Shed to find you. But for myself, Marvin S. Banks, and Ty Woe Sosina, signing off.
Trey's up.
Ride with Phirst Contention, that's full throttle in. We sport on deals, on court, on fields. The victors, the vengeance, the legends, latest invention. Phirst Contention. We sport on deals, on court, on fields. The victors, the vengeance, the legends, latest invention. Phirst Contention. Game face grit, like born for playoffs. Say it all in small time like payoffs.